Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Hello and welcome back yet again. Today is Sunday's edition of the dceu Daily. And if you want to keep this awesome conversation going with an awesome human being, joking of course, nip over to Twitter. Follow me over there at Movies TV Mad. So what are we going to be discussing today? Very shortly, today we'll be discussing that my sources are telling me that it's official. Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips are returning for the Joker movie sequel. Todd Phillips has also recruited a writer-director, according to my sources. Pinch of salt, as usual. Yes, a writer-director to do a Luthor movie who could link in and become the official DC movie Lex Luthor, because the DC world of films is changing all the time. Things are happening, things are moving on from what was going on from BVS and MOS. It's going to be, look, we're in very, very interesting times. We're going to discuss that in a moment. Also, I'm going to tell you that Warner Brothers do want to release the Snyder Cut, but they just want us a bit hungrier. How hungry can we be? And finally, I will discuss how Justice League destroyed Warner Brothers' most valuable property, Superman. But first, let's talk about this hopeful news. Let's hope my sources are telling the truth. Let's hope this is real news. But as I say, it's my responsibility, seeing I have kind of set up this channel to talk about this. And by the way, I do check my comments, and to prove I check my comments, yesterday said, you deserve more views and more subs than you get. So I can't remember your name, sorry about that, but, you know, comments like that mean the world to me. And doesn't that prove that we're creating a little community here, a positive, loving community who are nerds, who are geeks, who love storytelling, who love movies and TV, so that's great. So let's talk about, should we call it a rumour? The rumour is that Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix are signed up for the Joker movie sequel. Did you ever think this wasn't happening? 900 million globally. The global box office has spoken. The movie consumer has spoken. And they've taken a big middle finger to Access Media, the bloggers and the critics, and said, this is what we want, SJWs. We don't want your crappy, shite, representational commentary. That's not important. What's important is someone who's robbed from their psych meds. Someone who's starving, who's living in a horrible, corrupt town with urban blight, destroying it, right? So, the Joker is probably the best film in a few decades. Let's be honest. We've been starved of good films, and don't get me wrong, DC have made some good films before. The Dark Knight trilogy, MOS, BVS, great movies. And Warner Brothers has made some non-brilliant movies in its time. Of course it has. But I think within this generation, that Joker movie is the best. Is it an original take on the Joker? I think it is and it isn't. Is it an original movie? It is and it isn't. There's nothing wrong with being inspired from Taxi Driver, the king of comedy. George Lucas was inspired by Flash Gordon, for crying out loud, when he did Star Wars. So please, don't use the fact that it may be slightly unoriginal. What's not unoriginal these days? Everything inspires geniuses to be geniuses. So everyone's unoriginal. I'm unoriginal. You know why I started this? Because I saw Mark Goldbridge on the United Stand. Because I saw Chris Wong Svensson on the Ping Pong Flicks. They inspired me. I wasn't trying to rip them off. They inspired me. And that's a beautiful thing. It's like a domino effect, isn't it? You do something that inspires me, I try and do something for myself. But this is me. This is my personality. I'm not those lads. Those lads are doing a great job and they're hugely successful. And congratulations to them for that. But, yes, what would a Joker movie sequel look like? I have no idea. I don't even know what I'd want it to be. But, personally, I'll hazard a guess at this. I think we want him being the Joker. We want him just to be established now, don't we? Last time we saw him in this universe, he was running away from security in this asylum. So I would actually like it to continue from that moment. He escapes and he goes into Gotham, and then, let's say, 10 years later, and we've got a living, breathing Batman who could be Arthur Fleck's, a.k.a. the Joker's brother. Could be. There could be this relationship. Wow. How amazing would that be? Maybe they start off being friends. That would be a bit different from comic book canon. And then something happens. Even though he's wanted, Batman's protecting him, right? For some reason, right? He has this... He identifies with him, right? So even though he's done some bad things, Batman understands that he needs help. And he's trying to help him. But then something kicks off and they become enemies. And that could be a great movie. Don't forget, this is different to the comic book version of the Joker, even though I think it's a brilliant original version. What's great about this film is it's inspired by those Scorsese films, but it's got very, very important world commentary in it. You know, stuff that, you know, Hollywood think toxic masculinity is the most important thing to talk about. I'm probably a toxic male. When a beautiful woman walks past me, I probably want to check out her rear end. I probably fantasize about women I meet, fantasize about doing them. That is life, my friends. We are all toxic males. But as long as we don't infringe a woman's personal space or make her feel uncomfortable, what is it to them in the middle of the night if I'm fantasizing without her knowing that I'm doing her? Come off it, right? Anyway, I'm nuts, right? I'm nuts. I know it, right? Don't forget, I've actually got an Instagram account and it's Mad Mick. I am absolutely crazy. But anyway, yeah, so I don't care about toxic masculinity. Only the extreme left care about toxic masculinity. Nobody does. But someone who's been robbed of their sight nerves is pretty important, right? Something that should be represented. Something that should be spoken about. So it's a brilliant film, and that's how I would like to see a Joker sequel, a Joker movie sequel, right? Get my words out. But I want to know what you think as usual. And even if I don't comment, I will try my best to like and love them, right? That's the least you guys deserve for rewarding me with your subs and your attention. You're beautiful people, you're beautiful boys, beautiful girls. You're passionate, just like me. And that's why you're here. So comments down below. Tell me, what kind of Joker movie sequel would you like? Right, now let's talk about the release of the Snyder Cut. Ever since this movement started, we've been under the impression that Warner Brothers don't want to release the Snyder Cut. Really? Really? These bastards have been building this up very cleverly. From the moment Jason Momoa started talking about it, it's obvious. They're yanking his chain. They're telling him to talk about it. They're telling him to talk it up. They're going to release this film, but they're not going to release it until we're so hungry. But it's not just about us. What they've manipulated here, and what Zach's manipulated, by the way, in a good, positive way, is to get the people outside of the movement, outside of the Snyder DCEU fandom, to be interested. And all of a sudden, this is what's happening. It's not just us that are hungry for this cut. It's everybody else. It's all the geeks and all the nerds. So all of a sudden, they've got a big crowd to play on. Now, the decision still remains. Will it be on HBO Max or will it be in theatres as well as that? Will it be released on Blu-ray and 4K at the same time? Nobody knows what the plans are. But I'm very, very confident that Warner Brothers do want to release the Snyder Cut. There's no question about that now. And again, I want to know what you think about that. Maybe you don't believe that. Maybe you think I'm talking horseshit. But ear to the ground, they want to release it. But they're not going to release it until they've got exactly the right window. You know, at the end of the day, the leadership at Warner Brothers, the leadership at DC Films is different now. It's not the person and the people who made the mistakes, who, you know, green-lit that Frankenstein's monster. That is Justice League. Right. Now, how Justice League destroyed Warner Brothers, most popular, most valuable IP. And that's not Harry Potter. It's not Batman. It is Superman. Forget those numpties who say Superman's boring and unrelatable, because that's BS. He's so relatable. He's an immigrant. He's someone with all the powers of a god, but he won't use his heat vision to burn you if you're annoying him. That's a hero, isn't it? And that's a beautiful hero. Thanks to Mara and Pa Kent as well for what they taught him in Smallville. But Justice League destroyed this character. Now, something I haven't spoken about before is the overpowering of Superman in Justice League. I didn't like it. I always used to think I would like Superman to be overpowered, and now I don't. I didn't like it. What I loved about Man of Steel and the fights in Man of Steel and Superman's fight in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice against Doomsday, those two enemies got punches in and they were denting his face. That was brilliant. He had someone to fight against. But Superman coming in Justice League in the 11th hour and just smacking the shit out of Steppenwolf was so boring. And they made him into Tony Stark. Is this guy bothering you? Fuck off. What are you doing? What are you doing? You know, Steppenwolf should have got some punches in. Should have really injured Superman. And we should have seen, Superman's will to get back up with some emotional, Junkie XL music, right? Which is the real music I love. And then he can beat him up and be a bit overpowered. It was too easy. It was ridiculous. The whole thing was embarrassing to Superman. It's bad enough what they did with the CGI on his upper lip, but too overpowered. And of course, as I say, the CG on Superman and the smile and all that was absolutely terrible and embarrassing. How can you release a movie like that? How can you represent Superman that way? A lot of people complained about the Salkinds Benedict Donner, but I think Richard Lester did a really good job with Superman 2, with what he had to do. He had to stick with the story. He had to reshoot some scenes because he needed his name on it. And Joss Whedon didn't even do that. He didn't even do enough to have the film, say, directed by Joss Whedon. That's the worst thing about the theatrical version of Justice League. It's got Zack's name on it. It is not Zack's movie. It's nothing like Zack's movie. And that's the thing to me. That's the kind of kick in the balls of Zack Snyder. And he's trying his best to get his work of art, his vision released. And it will be released. It's been a long fight. But I think by the time it's over, I think we're going to be very, very happy. But what will we talk about afterwards? Look, this is DC. There's always something to talk about. This is the entertainment industry. There's always something to talk about. But I think Warner Brothers do need to make up for what happened to Superman in Justice League. So they're doing a Superman and Lois TV show, something I wasn't that enthusiastic about, but now I'm thinking about it. They're teasing a secret storyline, which is interesting to me. Look, if this is going to be a Lois and Clark show where this is a dumbed-down, watered-down Superman who just says, yes, darling, no, darling, I don't want to see an emasculated Superman. That's boring to me. So hopefully they don't do that. But since my initial reaction to this, and I did a reaction video, check that out on my homepage, I have noticed that the people running the first season of the Lois and Superman show are actually the people who helmed season 1 of The Flash. Jeff Johns, is it Guggenheim as well? So good people are going to be running this first season who understand the character of Superman. So that is integral, and that absolutely is really, really important. And I am hearing rumours as well that a Superman movie is going to be announced soonish, despite the announcement of the Superman TV show. A Superman TV show and the Superman movie have been happening before at the same time. Superman Returns, we had Smallville and we had Superman Returns. And I'm not saying that Superman Returns worked completely. It did have some great, beautiful concepts in it. But unfortunately, Bryan Singer didn't know what he wanted the film to be. And that's the problem with that film. If we go back, there's been a lot of problems with Superman. Warner Brothers just haven't done the character justice. Superman 3, Superman 4, there's been problems, right? And they need to do a Superman film for everybody. I love Man of Steel. I love Snyder's and Goya's Superman and Terrier's. I do. But we now need a Superman for everyone. Now, I've read you this before, but before I go, I'm going to read you my concept for a Superman film. So stay right with me while I get my phone. Yes, let's read out my concept for a Superman movie. You're probably switching off because you've heard this before, but I think it's a great way to finish off today's video. So here we go, and comment down below. I really want to know your opinions. You can criticise it. Look, it doesn't matter. It's just me on my own. This is never going to become a movie, but I'd love me and J.J. Abrams to do this. That's the dream. My Superman movie idea. Superman has been on Earth for thousands of years, but I've changed that now. When this story starts, he's actually been on Earth for 1,000 years, right? He's had hundreds of adventures. He's discovered worlds, explored space. The world knows him as Kal. People have seen him from a distance, never seeing his face. So my actual idea is that he's never actually took on the Clark Kent persona. Of course, back in Smallville, back in the days, he was called Clark Kent. He was named Clark Kent, but he's never gone to the Daily Planet, worked for the Daily Planet. He's basically, at this point, just a faceless legend, right? Even when he has caught people, he's so quick they haven't seen his face. Clark decides it's time to become more human, so he embraces his Clark Kent persona, gets a job at the Daily Planet, where he also gets his foster son, Jimmy Olsen, a job as a photographer. I've spoken about Jimmy before. I think one of the greatest things that Siegel and Schuster did was creating Jimmy Olsen. Now, a lot of people think that Jimmy Olsen is an unimportant bore, irrelevant, but he's not. He's like the companion, and I've said this so many times, he's like the companion in Doctor Who. He's your way into the story. This is an ordinary young man in the comics that happens to be lucky enough to work in the Daily Planet and become Superman's best pal. Imagine there being such a thing as Superman. You're a 16, 17-year-old guy on work experience, and Superman becomes your best friend. That's beautiful, isn't it? So I decided to go a different way with Jimmy, but he's still that young, naive man on a very, very special journey. So let me start again. Even when he has, where are we? So persona and gets a job at the Daily Planet, where he also gets his foster son, Jimmy Olsen, a job as a photographer. He fostered Jimmy when he was 10 years old. Jimmy lost his parents in an explosion Superman failed to stop, which Jimmy doesn't know about. No, Clark hasn't lied to him. He just never told him. Because it's important Superman doesn't lie. Also working at the Daily Planet, Lois Lane and John Corbin, who are also dating. Clark is attracted to Lois. Clark and John quickly become good friends. Ex-soldier Perry White is the editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet. Now, I have got a little... because Lawrence Fishburne was cast, I had this great idea that we could turn him into this Nick Fury character, where secretly he's actually in charge of the Justice League or something. I thought that would have been a great idea for Snyder and Terrio and Goya to do. So I might do that in my story, but I haven't put that down yet. So, where are we? And also, Perry White is the editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet. But when John Corbin is shot dead on the order of Lex Luthor, he is taken to LexCorp and brought back to life by being rebuilt. Powered with a kryptonite heart, Lex names him Metallo and controls him via a chip at the back of his head. Metallo begins to go after targets Lex orders him to. When Kal realizes he's powered by kryptonite, he goes to the Justice League. Yes, the Justice League exists when this story starts, so we don't have to form them. We don't have to tell 3 or 4 movies how they become. The Justice League is there because Superman's been around for 1,000 years, so they would be, wouldn't they? He goes to the Justice League for counsel, but not long after metahuman Manchester Black arrives with his team, the Elite. Now, I like Manchester Black. Now, I've never read him in the comics, but I saw an animated film called Superman vs. the Elite, and I fell in love with this character and his logic and his sense of mind. And I think he would be such a good enemy for Superman because he's not just got powers, he's intelligent and he's a manipulator. He can manipulate people. How he does it in, Superman versus the Elite and turns everyone on Superman. Why doesn't Superman kill people? They're the themes I want to deal with in my Superman story. And I want that question to be asked. I want to reverse the Superman kill debate that was brought up with Man of Steel. I want to show people, as Superman versus the Elite does, why Superman will never kill. Manchester tells the Justice League that Corbin and all criminals must be taken out so they are never a threat again. Kal and the Justice League don't agree, and Manchester uses the media to whip up a hate campaign against Kal and the Justice League. Clark begins to have flashbacks to the Second World War where governments of the world were pressuring him to get involved. Some people even turned on him for not killing Hitler after being ordered to by influential figures. If I kill him for you, then I must kill you for him. And that's a quote from Superman. So that's my story. That's my story. I think look, obviously, it's a little thing I thought about because I do think about it all the time since we haven't seen Superman on the big screen since Justice League, which is nearly exactly 2 years ago. I just keep on thinking of ways. How do we bring him back? How do we not just do the same thing that Donna did with The Origin? How do we do not the same thing that Snyder did with Man of Steel? So I think, as I say, I love those films. I love what they did. But it's time to go back to the comics. It's time to get inspiration from the comics, not necessarily copy and paste them. So we want a brighter film mixed in with some darkness as well. So it shouldn't be one thing or the other. And I think my story is very interesting. Of course, I would say that because I composed the story. So let me know what you think. And you can read that whole story. I've pinned it on my Twitter @MoviesTVMad. Please comment down below. Positive, negative, just be constructive. Tell me what you think of my Superman story. Please comment down below about all the things we have discussed today. And I will be back tomorrow with more DCEU Daily. Please like and share the video and the channel. See you tomorrow.